Hi everyone, happy Monday. It's good to see you all. I am going to continue the Dignified Hospitality series. I don't have any planned guests today, which is fine. Just me. Of course, if you'd like to join, you're welcome. Good morning. Where are you located that it's good morning for you? It's afternoon. I'm actually pretty late today. I usually come on a couple hours earlier, but I had to get a new modem for my internet. I had a power outage that caused my old modem to crash out on me. But I have a new one now, so I'm back online. Today's information is coming from a couple of different articles. Not good news, as one could expect right now in a conversation regarding the pandemic in the restaurant industry. It's such a shame that the restaurant industry has been hit so hard by pandemic. Because there's a lot of jobs there, a lot of craft, a lot of art that's not being appreciated, can't be safely appreciated right now. The nature of these conversations that I've been hosting on every Monday for the past few months now has been to move forward with some manifesto. And I'm sourcing, the ideas and the concepts for this manifesto from the conversations that are had through this series. And last week I had Stefan on. He's been running a podcast called Serve Conscious for a couple of years now. And so he's been, talking about these issues for a while. Me, I've just recently have jumped onto this. In the nature of his podcast, he's not really talking about what needs to be done on an industry-wide standard. He's mostly talking about the individuals within the system and how they can enrich their own lives and their own career through service, finding mindfulness, finding a better way and a better life through the service industry, which I think is incredible. It's a conversation that's not had enough. People often think of the service industry just as this temporary, life building step, while you get to focus on the thing that you are really passionate about, be it music or art. But no, it's a dignified career. Providing sustenance to the community is very dignified. And we can pave a way forward in doing that. And of course, that is the responsibility of the individual. But as an employer, as a restaurant owner, or as a chef that's managing a team in your kitchen, there is a benefit in creating a more hospitable and dignified environment for your team. Of course, you're going to get more skilled work. You're going to get a better quality product and more sustainable business, which is in jeopardy right now. The restaurant industry is in jeopardy. And so this article is some compiled data published on the website Restaurant Dive. And it's mostly looking at Yelp. So Yelp actually, economic average, they actually have their own report. They posted it up. That's nice. This is really good, actually. So this website, I'll go ahead and link this in the comments. So if you want to see this, and if you're on Instagram and I can't give you the link right now, this website is called Yelp Economic Average. And that's where all this data is compiled. So this could be a cool little reference just to stay updated on what's going on in the industry at large. So it looks like Yelp puts out this quarterly report. It had put one out on April 28th. But this one just published on June 25th. Maybe it's just updated. So it says, as of June 15th, there were nearly 140,000 total business closures on Yelp since March 1st. In April, they reported more than 175,000 business closures, indicating that more than 20% of businesses closed in April have reopened. Las Vegas, Nevada endured the highest number of closures relative to the number of businesses in the city, 1,921 total closures, while Los Angeles had the largest total number of closures of 11,774. So I guess that's per capita. Las Vegas definitely did get hit the hardest. Oh, this report's very cool, kind of showing you all the reopenings. Of all business closures on Yelp since March 1st, 41% are permanent. So that's like really close to the number that was originally forecasted, and we're still early on in the pandemic as far as navigating. I mean, this is like, I'm sure it'll get down lower in the report, but in some of the other articles that I've been reading that are referencing this report, those writers are saying that regardless of the state's mandates, like if the restaurants can be open or not, in restaurant dining is down across the board. And so, that's why I say, this pandemic's not over, and the final results of these closures is not known just yet, because that public sentiment about, is it safe to dine? Do I feel comfortable dining? That still hasn't been resolved. So even if the state is allowing it and our own president is hosting, big dinners, people are still going to choose to stay home. And this is a big deal. And I feel like, I don't know, I wish I had a friend on, that owns a restaurant that's gone through this process already, but like at least here in Vegas, we've started to reopen, and every day I'm seeing a new friend post, oh, we're going to have to be closed for the next couple of days to disinfect the space because one of our employees tested positive. So I think that's going to be an ongoing thing that we're going to see across the industry, just the odds of it, the odds of how the virus is spreading. And so that brings into question, is that the right protocol? If an employee tests positive, is that the right protocol? Of course, that's the right protocol for building trust in the community. I feel like that's what people are resonating with when they see that online. They're saying, yeah, good for you. Thanks for being proactive. But that's a big issue for a business running on small margins. It was one thing to shut down and to convert to go or convert to nothing and just be shut down. But to be shut down and then reopen and then have to shut down again. So that can, be very financially dangerous. And really the only businesses that are going to survive that type of trauma are going to be the ones that are more financially secure. And so there is a lot of pessimism that the mom and pops are going to have a big struggle in surviving this. But I think like even the strong, large centralized organizations are still going to struggle with this, especially if you're having to close several times over and over. The problem is that every time you shut down, you have to consider all of your inventory that you had of your ingredients, of everything. And if you have to be shut for 2 or 3 days, then you're not going to be able to use those things for 2 or 3 days. So, that trauma happened at the beginning of the pandemic. And as long as restaurants were shut down, yes, they weren't having the revenue coming in to pay their rents and whatever other overheads they have. But when they reopened, they had to restock all of their ingredients and restock everything. And then if just a few weeks later they're going to have to close again, they're going to have to go through that cycle all over again. So that scares me. Actually, I kind of feel like this cycle of like opening, closing could be more detrimental to the economics of restaurants than if a restaurant was just to commit, to finding a way to weathering the storm without opening their dine-in. So that would be with takeout, which is on the rise. The search results is on the rise. But there's other things to do too, innovative things. And who knows, maybe it doesn't even have to do with serving food to people. It could be something else. I'd love to hear some ideas if you guys have been seeing anything in your own networks or your own communities that's impressed you about what some restaurants have done to keep their community engaged and as well as to diversify their revenue streams to support themselves during this difficult time. Hi, Danny. Good to see you. Speaking of closures, you see Golden Tiki. Golden Tiki had to close to sanitize everything. I would think Golden Tiki is a little bit less challenged with this because it's just a bar. And, if you stock all of your beers and your alcohols and had to close, you could still save that and use that when you reopen. But this is mostly an issue for like perishable food ingredients and whatnot. And not to mention the trauma to your staff. You get your staff all wound up and excited about reopening. You reopen, and then 3 weeks later you have to reclose. So maybe I'll have in a few more weeks. I'll invite some of my friends that have gone through these cycles and ask them how's that. Yeah. So the highest rate of closures of business is shopping and retail, then restaurants, then beauty, then fitness. Retail was the hardest hit, experiencing the highest numbers of closures. 35% of retail businesses have indicated permanent closures on Yelp so far. Okay, so now restaurants. Oh, I don't get this. What this chart? So actually, it says that 53% of restaurants have permanently closed since March 1st. 53% permanently closed. That, and Jean, he was on maybe 3 weeks ago. We were chatting, and he was actually optimistic about that, saying, yes, this is a large number of restaurants closed, but then that's also a larger opportunity for entrepreneurs, especially more micro-sized entrepreneurs, to be positioned to get into those kitchens at lower risk, which could make a huge difference. The difference of, typically before pandemic, unless you got really lucky and got like a second generation kitchen, something that was already built and you can just go. It was very hard to do that. And the capital requirements to just open a restaurant, to even think about opening a restaurant, was at least $2 million. But then now, if a kitchen's already retrofit and ready to go, then the capital requirement could be as low as like $200,000, which 10 times less money gives the chef and that restaurateur a lot more power to run their kitchens the way that they want to, versus being under the pressure of investors, which a $2 million startup kitchen, $2 million is it's a lot of money, and so you usually have to involve investors to make that work. So it keeps talking about innovation, but this is all just curbside pickup. Interesting. This report even has the increase of patronage of Black-owned businesses, and it shows it across states. So this is cool. You can kind of see the states that have the highest increase. It's hardly an increase though. 0.5%, 1%. In Minnesota, it was 1.1%, which that makes sense. Michigan, 0.92% increase. I highly recommend this report. It's got a lot of numbers. It even has talks about like lifestyle changes. Outdoor activities have become popular at the height of the pandemic as people are finding ways to stay active, such as mountain biking, lakes, golf, and hiking. Have dropped in consumer interest since May 1st relative to other activities. Well, maybe because it got too hot. At least here in Vegas, that's the issue. Okay, so that's saying that these things are down. So mountain biking is down 40%, hiking's down 28%, but indoor activities have gone up. So escape games are up 128%, go-karts are up 147%, axe throwing is up 113%, gym's only at 81%, and yoga at 42%. So I guess maybe the exercise is not as important. A previous spike in community-supported agriculture and grocery has started to dip. That's too bad. Yeah, this report's really good. You know, not to say that Yelp is like the best source of data. You want to throw an axe, Melissa? They're gonna have the axe throwing in the area 15 right next to Tlet. If you're really into that. I'm not so into it. I mean, I'd be into it if someone wanted to do it. I'd do it. Maybe we can do that, Melissa. They have like a streetcar too. Like First Fridays, they'll come and park out in the street and let you do the axe throwing out on the street. But Area 15 should have all kinds of cool activities. I don't know when they're going to be safe to open. I mean, if the casinos are all open, I don't see why Area 15 wouldn't want to open. Just for some context, Area 15 is an alternative amusement space here in Las Vegas that's actually opening right next to Tlet. Like you can see it right outside the door right now. And they're going to have several different immersive experiences, events, venue spaces, festival grounds. And it's also going to be home. Their anchor tenant is Meow Wolf. Meow Wolf is an immersive art museum, interactive psychedelic art museum that popularized in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But, you know, a lot of that is based off of like sensory experiences and being able to touch things and interact with things. So there is a lot of discussion about how safe it will be to explore that opportunity with the pandemic going on and all of the risks. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much mystery there, but all the more reason to take it seriously. Maybe airborne now. And restaurants are like, they're a big part of that. You know, they have circulated air systems and things can spread easily. And then people aren't wearing their mask while they're eating. So, you know, there's the potential of things getting into the air systems and getting spread. So here it says, during the peak of the pandemic, the number of diners seated across the Yelp reservations and wait lists dropped essentially to zero. That makes sense. In early June, numbers of diners seated are down 57% of pre-pandemic levels. I feel like maybe this number, I mean, I'm comfortable accepting this number as a valid measurements. But then on the other hand, I think that maybe some of it is unaccounted for because, okay, so this is my experience with dealing with like restaurants during the pandemic time. Everybody had to close, so then everybody had to update their Google and their, um, their Yelp pages with their new hours or if they were opened or closed. And then, they could open again and it had been a long time. And so I feel like some restaurants maybe didn't update everything perfectly. And there was one time I was trying to make a reservation through Yelp, or at least link through their website or something to make the reservation, and the hours hadn't been updated, and I was unable to make that reservation. I had to call. And I think so maybe that might be happening where like a lot of reservations are being made through phone calls directly to the restaurant versus through these apps. Because, I mean, how many times did you use Yelp during the pandemic? I guess if you were ordering takeout food often, maybe you were using it. I used it 0 times. And I usually use Yelp a lot. I don't use it for making reservations or for ordering food. I use it just for exploration. To discover, like what's in my area, what am I looking for. But I didn't use that app at all in the past 3 months. So, now when I have dined out, which has only been, 3 times, I think. Yeah, 3 times I've dined out. I knew exactly where I was going to dine, and I knew exactly, I could just go pick up the phone number and go. And I feel like Yelp is a little bit different in its usability. So that could be why, but at the same time, I'm happy to accept this 57% of pre-pandemic levels. I think it's down, and a lot of restaurants are at lower capacity too, so that could be another reason for it. The National Restaurant Association estimated that 15% of restaurants could close, while Barclays estimates is more optimistic, predicting approximately 10%. Yelp is already at, what was that number? 53% permanently closed. That's crazy. And that's the most. So it breaks it down. Shopping and retail is 35% permanently closed. Beauty and spas, 24% permanently closed. And fitness is at 26% permanently closed. Oh, I see where this is at. 41% is the average of all of those. So 41% of service industry businesses have already permanently closed. And again, this is only as of June 15th. So, there's still a couple of weeks of unaccounted data, as well as what's going into the future. And, I don't know. I want to bring on an expert. I hope next week I could bring somebody on that I'd love to bring on Jenny Wong. I think that she'd be a good person to have this conversation with about, the economic damage of not only closing one time and having to be closed for some certain period of time, but being closed repeatedly after having to restock your ingredients and your fridges and your everything, and get hire your staff and get that all on board again, and then only to be closed for a couple of days to have to like resanitize everything and get it up. And then if you want to be proactive, so some restaurants are being smart. They're evading this risk of having to like close and reopen by being proactive. But there's a cost to do that as well. So that's someone sent me an article a few weeks ago about a restaurant group and how they're operating and pretty much requiring employees to take tests every time before they come in for their shift. Every employee. There's costs to that. And, actually getting good masks for your employees. That was one thing. I went to go dine out at actually a very nice restaurant on the Strip. And all the employees are wearing masks. I don't know if the masks were good or not. They definitely weren't comfortable. You can tell the staff was not comfortable, and they kept playing with it and kept moving it around. Um, I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the mask if you're having to do that. So, if you wanted to be really proactive, you'd get the best of the best, and you'd take care of the best that you can of your employees. But there's costs to that as well, just like there's costs to reopening and reclosing and reopening and reclosing. So I think this 53% permanent closure number of restaurants is only the start. I don't know what that number will end up, but we have definitely already exceeded that 40%, because I remember that was the number that I remember seeing the Restaurant Association. That was just of New York. This is nationally. So, I think the percentage of closures is even different, in different markets. This is something interesting going on as far as search stats on Yelp. The research shows that restaurants catering to group dining are making a comeback. So right now, if people are going out to eat, they want to go as a big group, and so it's saying fondue searches are up 123%, tapas bars are up 98%, hot pot up 48%, and buffets up 17%. I don't think you're going to see a lot of buffets open right now. And then saying that like the hot pandemic cuisines are starting to go down. So pizza, over the past 3 months, as of June 15th, pizza has gone down 28%. I think people are tired of pizza. Chinese is down 26%, and fast food is down 18%. So I think people are, if they are going to go out and dine, they want to do something special. They want to do something different, than just the same old pizza and Chinese food. It's interesting. A number of states have sanctioned to reclose their restaurants in big markets, including New Jersey, New York, and California. And it says, restaurants with the strongest balance sheets and best access to capital have the best chance to endure these sustained closures. And it's saying that Taco Bell, Domino's, and McDonald's are all doing really well with massive hiring sprees. But I don't know. I'm a little skeptical on that fast food is immune to these issues and immune to the economic hardship. Because there are supply chain issues. They're working on even smaller margins. They're working in larger quantities and smaller margins. And so, just a little switch in your supply chain really affects the rest of your balance sheet. While a smaller scale mom and pop business that may not have access to the same resources and capital, they do have a little bit more wiggle room as far as like if there are changes to the supply chain, if like beef prices go up, which that has happened. I would imagine McDonald's, they're powerful, don't get me wrong. They're powerful, and they can negotiate something, and they can make something happen, and I'm sure that's what's happening. Like on the corporate level, there is something going on, and I think people are dining less, doing a lot more drive-through, but it's not enough. I mean, I know their suppliers are even struggling, right? So Coca-Cola, let me see. I haven't talked about Coca-Cola in a long time, but let's see what they're up to. Yeah, Coca-Cola is not doing well. Their stock has fallen 20%. They stopped advertising on social media. I saw that article last week. So like there's like this boycott going on, particularly around Facebook, but I think all of the social media platforms are kind of under the same umbrella, that these big brands don't want to advertise anymore, because they don't believe in the politics. But I mean, secretly, I'm like, they're probably just trying to get things to work on their balance sheets. They did shut down Odwalla juice. Odwalla. I heard that yesterday. This article is from 4 days ago, so yeah, that's news. So their juice, that's Coca-Cola owns Odwalla juice. So let me read this. Motley Fool, why the stock has dropped. And I think it's related to fast food. And then also related to like other events, like sporting events and other places, because that's actually where a lot of Coca-Cola is distributed to. And those events aren't happening. And then as well as fast food restaurants, someone's going to go through the drive-through and just pick up their meal. Like there's not a whole lot of people just going in and, buying a soda so that they can sit and use the Wi-Fi at McDonald's, like what used to happen a lot. And I think the margins on soft drinks and fast food restaurants are, the strongest for them. So if they're not selling as much. And that's interesting. So Coca-Cola dropped 19% and Pepsi dropped 3%. I wonder why there's such a difference. Volume plummeted 25% mid-April. So that was the last thing that I had talked about. Pepsi also had a slump. Oh, so this article is not saying why. It's saying that we have to look out for the report on July 13th. Pepsi's report on July 13th, which I will. By July 13th, which is next week, I will keep my eye out for this report. And we'll talk about it. Why their stocks have dropped. So yeah, even the big guys are not immune to these problems. Big issues. But I'm sure in those corporate offices of Golden State Foods, so Golden State Foods is like the supplier of McDonald's. They're probably having a lot of meetings right now in their corporate offices, negotiating contracts and trying to find a way to maintain status quo, because that's what they need. They need to maintain status quo. Like a small mom and pop, they can innovate, they can change, they can make something new, they can figure out a new path. But McDonald's doesn't really have that luxury. They have luxury of big profits and lots of resources, but all of that is nothing without that status quo of that commodity status. And really, I've been talking about this for years. There needs to be change there. The sustainability just won't last forever. There needs to be change to the commodity system and the commodity pricing. And that number, I don't know exactly. I've heard for the tea industry, and so with that, I think that we can kind of translate that into other agriculture industries, that there needs to be a 7-time increase of commodity pricing. Not even just a 20% increase or 30% increase, 7 times. That's 600% increase. I forget, something 350% increase. It's a lot of increase. And it's an increase that the commodity corporate system won't be able to manage, won't be able to sustain. Of course, they're going to try to find their workarounds and secure other ways, but ultimately into the future, that is what's going to be needed, is an increase of pricing, an increase of value Um, and that the Subways and Domino's and McDonald's of the world will not be immune to. Now, small mom and pop, that's, just working slowly and innovating, will be able to. But yeah, I want to bring somebody on maybe next week. I'll cross my fingers. Hopefully, I can get someone like Jenny. I know Jenny's so busy. Most of my friends that own restaurants are very busy right now, so I'm not trying to pull their attention too much. I know they have a lot going on, but I would like to hear from them on the impact and kind of the fear of what COVID response. Is it worth it to even be open? And this was a conversation that we were having at the beginning of this series a few months ago, where a lot of owners of businesses were saying that they were actually losing money doing takeout. Because, there's certain fixed costs and variable costs too, that even if you have a very busy takeout business going on, it's hard to keep it profitable. But a lot of these businesses were doing it just so that they could, for the branding opportunities, to support the community, to get food out to people that aren't prepared to cook each one of their meals at home. But is it worth it? To lose that. And then now we're in this new cycle where, okay, we got to be open for dining. It's legal to be open for dining. We got to be open. But then, someone tests positive. We've got to close down. And I'd love to talk with somebody about those actual numbers. I'm just imagining. I'm an outsider, not not an actual stakeholder in that system itself. So what I'm saying here is strictly commentary, but believe that's got to be pretty impactful. So hopefully next week I'll have somebody on and we can talk about that, because I think that's super relevant right now. So I'll start asking around if you guys know of anybody, or even if you're familiar with these situations and have some ideas about what it could look like. Maybe you can come on. You can come on right now. I've got my link right here. But I think I'm going to tune out soon, so if you come on, we might be able to just say hello, goodbye, and then I'm going to go get back to my work. I got to get my router up. So I got the modem working, but now I got to get the router up so that I can get some Wi-Fi in this place. Cool. I hope you guys are eating well. I hope you're cooking some bomb food and barbecue, right? So this past weekend was all about the barbecue. I hope you had a good one. My family did ribs. It was good. I was quite happy with it. Well, I'm going to go now. Tomorrow, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully I'll go camping tomorrow night. I'd like to go get out of the heat. I've been living in my house. I have a small condo. It's not a big house, but a small condo. I've been living out of there for the past week with no AC, and today it's 108 degrees. So it's been pretty hot. So I'd like to get out and get in the mountains where it's a little bit cooler. But with that heat comes meditation, comes challenge, comes focus, comes endurance. So I'm grateful for it. I've been grateful for that experience, sweating in my house, still cooking, whipping up some breads, and I made some chocolate chip cookies. That's been my latest little snack. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate you very much.